Welcome to episode number 359 of the Beyond Social Media Show, the podcast for all of you marketing, advertising, public relations, and communications professionals. You can find us by searching for Beyond Social Media Show. We are recording on August 15, 2021. A lot of things to talk about this week, including TikTok in real life, Yelp COVID labels, Instagram blocking, brain-computer input, Twitter redesign, problems we solve, Snopes retracts, Kirk Cousins anti-vax PR fiasco, Twitter cropping bias, Doximity misinformation, content and some stats on content entrepreneurs. You want to stick around at the end, but we'll kick it off at the beginning with the best story of the week. Yeah, what do you got?
Well, TikTok in real life is the story, and this is from a New York Times story by Taylor Lorenz. A woman named Marissa, I think you pronounce it Mays. She became a TikTok meme after her friends excluded her from a birthday party, and someone overheard them talking about it. And when she learned that, she decided to do something about it. So a man she didn't know posted a video on TikTok saying he was trying to find Marissa Mays because he overheard her friends saying they were planning not to invite her to a birthday party. And then people started texting her and saying, you got to look at this video, which had like 14 million views. And of course, this hurt her feelings, whose feelings wouldn't be hurt. But instead of sulking, she went on TikTok to say that she was the person the video was about, and immediately people started messaging her saying, let's be friends and screw your old friends. And then within days, she's a costume designer. She lives in New York. She got more than 5,000 messages, strangers inviting her to their birthday parties, their housewarmings, their weddings. So she decided that she was going to help other people who were in the same situation. And a lot of people lost friends during COVID from being out of touch and being isolated and kind of rethinking their lives. And so she decided she'd hold a meetup in Central Park. 200 people showed up. So it was such a success that she started a site called No More Lonely Friends. And it's an online community and a store for people looking to make friends in real life. And she also has meetups in real life across the country. So she's had meetups in LA, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Washington, Boston, and other cities. And a smart brand showed up. Other brands have expressed interest, but she didn't pay any attention. And then Arizona Iced Tea showed up at one of the gatherings with free drinks and merchandise. And what a smart move on their part. So this is part of a trend of online acquaintances meeting in real life. And there's one really crazy example back in May. A 17-year-old posted on TikTok that she was having a birthday party. And thousands of teenagers came to Huntington Beach, California. YouTubers, TikTokers, live streamers, they went to make posts about it for people who couldn't be there. And eventually it was a riot. And the police came and they ended up arresting 150 people and issuing emergency curfews. But her part, the TikTok ladies' parties are very peaceful, and she's had as many as 600 people show up at them. So what she does is she races around to all the different groups and she, greets them and talks to them, and what fun.
Well, if it's a trend of online acquaintances meeting in real life,
we need to do it.
And maybe you and I should meet.
Yeah. Since 2012.
Right. Yep.
I think it's an idea.
There we go. So there a lot of COVID related stories today. This one kicks it off with Mashable's Sasha Likach, who reports on Yelp adding COVID labels to their to business profiles. So it's starting to the Yelp is starting to include vaccine requirement labels alongside other information on business pages. So a claim business can mark fields for proof of vaccination required or all staff fully vaccinated, and only the account of the business itself can add the label, so individual randos can't do that. Users can filter their searches for businesses that have employees that are vaccinated or require proof of inoculation. Yelp is monitoring vaccine-related comments in the reviews and performing content moderation, because you can imagine that people, anti-vaxxers or whatever, are going to leave negative stuff on their negative reviews on business pages. So the any reviews that are talking about a business's health and safety practices or its stance on vaccination will be flagged, and those pages will be marked with unusual activity alert. So far, as of this writing, of this article's writing, there were over 100 of those alerts had gone up on Yelp pages. Nearly 4,500 reviews had been pulled for violating Yelp policy. So yeah, that does happen.
Wow, it's such a crazy time, honestly. So talking about reactions, I was really surprised to see the word randos in a headline in Variety. I think of Variety as rather a staid publication, even though it covers celebrities. But anyway, Instagram is trying to block hate and abuse. And this could have gone in bad, honestly, because Instagram announced a series of features that are designed to protect users, particularly celebrities and high-profile creators, protect them from hateful comments posted by users who are not their regular followers. So sometimes what happens is you post something. I have a lot of experience with this. This is from Todd Spangler, by the way, in Variety. Sometimes you post something and all of a sudden, if you forget to, I don't think Instagram has the limited thing, but on Twitter, if you forget to say only people you follow can comment, all of a sudden you hear from all these random people who are largely bots. But anyway, Instagram is launching limits, and it's a new feature that automatically hides comments and direct message requests from people who don't follow you or who only recently followed you. And they think this will be helpful, particularly for public figures experiencing a spike in abusive comments or DMs, like racist threats directed at English soccer players after their team lost the Euro 2020 final last month. And they also added a feature called Hidden Words, which is an opt-in feature that Instagram launched in several countries earlier this year, and it's now rolling out for everybody. It automatically filters abusive DM requests into a hidden folder, so you never have to see them. Instagram developed limits after seeing creators and public figures experiencing surges in comments and DM requests from people they don't know. And in some cases, it's an outpouring of support, like if an athlete goes viral after winning an Olympic medal, but it can also be horrible comments, like what happened after the Euro 2020 final. So the platform also issues warnings, like Twitter does, for people who try to post potentially offensive comments. And Instagram showed warnings saying, this may go against our guidelines about 1 million times daily on average last week. So half were edited or deleted by the user who was shown these warnings. But the reason it could be in the worst of the week is because Facebook's not doing it. Facebook has the technology to do this, and they're not, because Facebook is a cesspool. But as you point out every week, a great place for advertising.
Yeah, so this I've been arguing for years that the trend in technology is toward more and more effortless input of information into computers. So, you start out with DOS line, you type in stuff, commands and stuff, then you get the mouse, and then you get the graphical interface, and then now we have, voice input. So here's another step along that way. This is from an article by Thomas Macaulay of the Next Web, who reports that researchers at the University of California, San Francisco, have successfully tested an implant. Now we're in matrix territory, an implant that decodes full sentences from brain activity. It's called neuroprosthesis. And it has enabled a man who can't speak to generate sentences just with his mind. The man is in his late 30s. He suffered a brainstem stroke in his teen that left him unable to talk. But now he can communicate by using it, or he currently communicates by using a pointer attached to a baseball bat to poke letters on a screen. You can imagine how laborious that is for him. What the researchers did, they first surgically implanted a high density electrode array over the man's speech motor cortex, and then connected a computer via a port in his head, literally the Matrix. And over 22 hours, across several months, the team recorded the man's brain activity as he attempted to say a list of 50 common words like water, family, good. The vocabulary then could collectively generate more than 1,000 sentences. So as he spoke, the custom neural network models distinguished between the neurological signals his brain was generated to identify the words he was trying to say. And they say that it has 93% accuracy at 18 words a minute at its best. So fascinating research, certainly helping this man. But look forward to becoming to a brain near you in the not too distant future.
That's equally wonderful and frightening. Really, I mean, wow. So far less import, but Twitter redesigned their website and app, and they have a new font which is called Chirp, and they changed a whole bunch of different elements that make them more high contrast, among other things. So this is from a TechCrunch story by Sarah Perez and from Twitter as well. And Twitter Design tweeted, "We released a few changes for the way Twitter looks on the web and on your phone. While it might feel weird at first, these updates make us more accessible, unique, and focused on you and what you're talking about." People bitched, of course, because nobody likes change, and there's no edit button. And I wonder why we can't get a spell check, but for me, that would make an edit button absolutely unnecessary. And I'm not the only one that realizes before I post something that I have a spelling error or a word wrong, and I have to delete it and do it again. But the edit button, in my opinion, would be a disaster, because that would allow bad people to change what they said. So what they did was they updated the colors to be high contrast, and there's a lot less blue. There's a lot of black, which is very strange, but it's they say it's a change they made to draw attention to the photos and the videos that we create and that we share. And they're rolling out new colors with giving you a fresh new palette. And they cleaned up a lot of visual clutter, that I'll give them. And there's fewer gray backgrounds and unnecessary divider lines. And they increased the space to make text easier to read, but it's only the start of visual updates, Twitter says, as Twitter becomes more centered on you and what you have to say. Like, what was Twitter centered on before, don't you wonder? It's also making all Western language text align left, which the company says makes it easier to read as you scroll. Non-Western text is unchanged, and these tweaks might seem minor, but they could become more important as Twitter rolls out an expanded feature set, like the super follow and other features, and they give the company a way to emphasize particular actions that it wanted you to take. So I find the black buttons kind of just ugly, but they definitely do stand out. And the other thing that Twitter added this week was that you can have multiple hosts now in Twitter Spaces. Before you could only have 2, so now you can have a bunch, which would allow you then to have a panel discussion, I guess. But anyway, Twitter looks different. You'll notice it.
Well, great.
It's like, is that what they were really worried about?
I don't know how I came across this, but I do follow a lot of the content that Jay Bear creates. He's a digital marketing thought leader, has been around forever, and has Convince and Convert as his blog and his agency. But I ended up on a site for from one article, I'm sure, and found that on a site he has an article called 17 Problems We Solve. which are the problems that his digital agency solves. And it seems to me that's just such a brilliant way of solving the problem, rather than listing, the services we provide or our capabilities, everything. What visitors really want to know when they're looking to hire an agency, or do you solve my problem? So saying the problems that you solve, I just thought that was very clever. Put a link to it in the show notes so people can see it, but just wanted to mention that.
That's quite brilliant. I like that a lot. So I'm out of good news. Do you have more?
I do not.
Okay, so onward to the worst stories of the week. This is sad. Snopes had to fact check itself. They have banned David Mickelson, who owns half the company, from writing articles after BuzzFeed News investigated and found out that he's been plagiarizing since 2015. So this is from a New York Times story by Heather Murphy. And Snopes, is the internet's premier fact-checking resource, and it had to retract 60 articles after BuzzFeed's story. And they found out that Mickelson plagiarized from news outlets as part of a strategy intended to scoop up web traffic. So what he said in his defense is that he would immediately grab content that was breaking news and then come back and edit it so that it wasn't plagiarism, so that they could break news. But he often apparently forgot to edit it. So by Friday morning, there were dozens of articles that they removed from the site, and pages that formerly had those articles now show the word retracted and an explanation that some or all of its content was taken from other sources without proper attribution. Ads have been removed from these articles also, according to Vinnie Green, who's Snopes' chief operating officer. And Mickelson apologized for what he called his serious lapse in judgment. Yeah, I'll say. But this is the part I don't get. He continues to be Snopes' chief executive. He just can't publish. And so he acknowledged that he engaged in, quote, multiple serious copyright violations of content that Snopes didn't have any rights to use. And he praised the work of the 20 dedicated professional journalists at Snopes who found this out. And then in an apology to the staff, managing editor Doreen Marchioni called the BuzzFeed News investigation, which accuses their chief executive intentionally taking credit for other people's work, as, quote, an example of dogged watchdog journalism that we cherish. I mean, what a weird turn of events. So one of the more bizarre aspects of his plagiarizing tendencies is that he sometimes published under another name. He used the pseudonym Jeff Zaronadia. His Snopes bio, and I don't know if this is true, says he's an American author and journalist who won the Pulitzer Prize for numismatics, the study of coins, in 2006, and that he was one of 4 finalists for the prize in 2008. So maybe he was, maybe he wasn't.
So is that, I'm sorry, I'm confused. Is that the bio, is what you just read, the bio of the pseudonym? Or the bio
that's
of
the
actual...
bio of Mickelson, the
Okay,
plagiarizer.
Okay.
But
Well,
who knows? Either he did or he
exactly.
didn't. I don't know. But it's just sad. I mean, it's great that they acknowledged it. It's great that BuzzFeed's reporting found it. But how freaking sad! I mean, this is a fact-checking site.
Yeah, it is, and you're exactly right. It's sad and baffling too, given the nature of the site, but also the way that they handled it is kind of the way that you should handle such a PR fiasco.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unlike Kirk Cousins, Minnesota Vikings quarterback.
Oh, what a mess.
Yeah. So the Vikings played their first preseason game yesterday, got slaughtered, and so the NFL season is fast coming up. And last year they had strict protocols in order to get through the entire NFL season, and a few outbreaks of COVID infections and everything. But that was before we had a vaccine. We currently have a vaccine. And the Associated Press is reporting that the Minnesota Vikings, my team, is the least vaccinated team in the NFL.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and that became widely apparent when the team was forced by NFL's strict protocols to practice with only one quarterback after their rookie quarterback, Kellen Mond, tested positive for COVID. And because starter Kirk Cousins and his backup Nate Stanley were unvaccinated, they had to quarantine for 10 days. So during the period of training camp where they're leading up and trying to get everything ready for the upcoming season, the starting quarterback had to sit out for 10 days and not practice. Cousins came out after his return, after he was quarantined for 10 days, he came out and had a media availability and faced questions. He blamed the team. He said the meeting rooms were too small. So that's why, he got quarantined for 10 days because the meeting rooms were too small. So he's blaming the team. He said he'll do anything to make sure this doesn't happen again. He'll meet outside in January. And people who know Minnesota know it gets pretty cold in January. So that's kind of weird. And then he said, I've even thought about putting plexiglass around my locker room so this never happens again. Okay, bubble boy. He quote from the press conference, he said, you can't play in a game if you have COVID. So the key will be not being in close contact. He said, it's
Wait, is he vaccinated?
No, he's not.
Oh, geez.
No, he's not. And he said, so it's a private decision and I intend to keep it that way. It's not private. Everybody knows you're not vaccinated. That's why you were quarantined. You're not vaccinated. Therefore, it's not private. He said, I'm going to do whatever it takes, except apparently the most obvious thing, getting vaccinated.
Yeah. Oh, geez.
So the story has so many different dimensions to it. I mean, one is his handling of the press conferences, non-answering, his digging in. He's clearly not going to get vaccinated. The team is pissed. I mean, the ownership is annoyed. His coach is really pissed off. But also, he's the quarterback of an NFL team. He is the leader, de facto leader of the team. He's making a selfish decision. If he has to sit out a game during the regular season, it could be the difference between the team making the playoffs and not. So it's selfish for that reason to his own teammates who would lose money because they weren't playing in the playoffs. It's selfish to the fans who don't get to see their team in the playoffs. It creates division with the team. The players are all saying the right things about they're united and everything, but they're, 64% of the team is vaccinated and the other is not. And it's got to create divisions. You can just imagine. Other Vikings that are not vaccinated, Adam Thielen, their star wide receiver, Minnesota, favorite son of Minnesota. Harrison Smith, their star safety, Sheldon Richardson, a veteran defensive tackle. These are all veteran leaders of the team who are unvaccinated. So is it surprising then when the leaders of your own team are not vaccinated that the Vikings have the lowest vaccinated rate in the league? Damages the brand, not to mention Kirk Cousins' brand, the Vikings brand themselves. I mean, Vikings fans have never fully embraced Cousins, and now they're kind of turning against him based on a lot of comments I've read online. That affects the Vikings brand. And then the other aspect of this is that Cousins is it's a fundamentalist Christian. And kind of this toxic mix of that, a lot of fundamentalist Christians' attitudes towards the vaccine and Republican anti-vaccination propaganda. Cousins' father is Don Cousins, who is a pastor of Discovery Church in Orlando, Florida. He reopened his church during the pandemic. He didn't require masks. He believes that Satan is behind the Black Lives Matter movement in pro sports. So, like father, like son, kind of. At least Cousins lost his sponsorship for a local hospital who said, yeah, we're not going to really align ourselves with that. I guess, there's no I in team, but there's definitely an I in Kirk.
What a mess.
Yeah.
That is a terrible mess. So speaking of messes, this could have also gone in either good news or bad news. There's a bias in Twitter's photo cropping that has been revealed, and Twitter engineering had an algorithm AI bias bounty challenge, and the results were both helpful and revealing. And It showed that Twitter's photo cropping algorithm prefers young, beautiful, light-skinned faces and also light-skinned emojis. So the competition was organized with the support of DEFCON, which is, they have an AI village, and they confirmed, this confirmed earlier findings, which we've talked about, that dark-skinned images were not showing up as well or at all. And so the top placed entry showed that Twitter's cropping algorithm favors faces that are slim, young, of light or warm skin color and smooth skin texture, and that they have stereotypically feminine facial traits. And the second and the third place entries showed that the system was biased against people with white or gray hair, suggesting age discrimination, and that it also favors English over Arabic script and images. So Twitter's director of its Meta team, which studies machine learning, ethics, transparency, and accountability, said, when we think about biases in our models, it's not just about the academic or the experimental, but how that also works with the way we think in society. His name's Ruman Chowdhury. And he said, I use the phrase life imitating life. We create these filters. This is exactly why this is in the bad news. We create these filters because we think that's what's that's what beautiful is. And that ends up training our models and driving these unrealistic notions of what it really means to be attractive. The competition's first place winner got $3,500, and his name was Bogdan Kulnich. He's a graduate student at a research university in Switzerland. And he used an AI program called StyleGAN2 to generate a lot of realistic faces. And then he varied the skin color. I have an image of this for the show notes. And he had feminine versus masculine facial features and slimness. And then he put these variants into Twitter's photo cropping algorithm to find out what it preferred. And as he notes in the summary of his report, these algorithmic biases amplify biases in society, literally cropping out those who don't meet the algorithm's preferences of body weight, age, and skin color. And another top winner demonstrated that the emojis with lighter skin tones also are favored by the algorithm. So, you know, that's good that they found that out and they plan to do something about it, but this is not new. This has been going on for a long time. So hence it's in the worst news of the week.
Well, I mean, garbage in, garbage out. You need a large representative data set to train your models on. And if you're not using that or not thinking about that, you're likely to get the results that you would expect. I mean, there you go.
Well, I mean, that, you know, a lot of that comes from kind of reigning by selfie stick. You know, you're just reflecting yourself in whatever you do, and that's what happens in a lot of this.
More vaccination regarding news. This is from CNBC's Ari Levy, who reports on a site called Doximity, which I hadn't heard of, but it calls itself the LinkedIn for doctors. And so it's an industry networking site for doctors. And the doctors on this site are finding that their news feeds are inundated with anti-vaccine comments from fellow physicians.
Really?
So you apparently cannot post directly on the site like you can with LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever, but you can comment. So there's an editorial board or whatever that chooses news to publish, medical related news to publish on the site. But you can then you can comment on those articles. There's a quote from a Dr. Paul Malarick, who is a retired psychiatrist who volunteers with COVID-19 vaccine administration. He says, you rarely get to the level of microchips in vaccines, but a lot of the stuff is pretty close to it. So in the post, commenters refer to vaccines as experimental, unproven, deadly. Occasionally they write FAUXI when talking about Dr. Anthony Fauci. There's no anonymity on the site. So these people are, they're posting under their real name. The users need to be practicing US healthcare professionals, and the company says they verify members by photo identification of a medical license, a hospital badge, email from medical institutions, challenge questions, and other methods. So it looks like it's pretty, legit vetting process, but that just means that doctors who are actually doctors are believing and spreading this propaganda and misinformation.
It's horrifying.
That's why it's bad. That's why it's in bad.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm on to smiles unless you have more bad news.
Yeah, I'm done with.
Okay, so this, the New York Times does these fabulous multimedia pieces, and this is their latest one. This was from 4 people: Sophie Hagney, Denise Liu, Gabrielle Giandoli, and Umi Siam. And they looked at the hidden melodies of subways around the world as the doors close. And so when train doors close, there's a little jingle that warns riders to stand clear. And usually they say stand clear of the closing doors. So Ted Green had been collecting the sounds and sights of transit systems for more than a decade. And he's a civil engineer, and in every city he visits, he rides the mass transit system and films video of the closing doors with announcements and telltale chimes and beeps and ding dongs and jingles and arpeggios that warn the riders of the world to stand clear of the doors. So he said, I think the appeal is the simplicity. You wonder, how can there be so many different variations of beeps? And then you listen and they're all so different. So I have a link to the story in the show notes, and it's another wonderful multimedia design coup that the Times has gotten so good at doing. And the sounds are really quite extraordinary in some of them. I mean, there's there's some that are really quite theatrical, and some that are just like, get out of the way. But in some, they repeat the message in a couple different languages, and this is fascinating.
Oh, cool. I don't have a smile, but let's go down to cool tools.
Okay.
This is fascinating. This is from a Wired article by Tom Simonite, who reports on Search Atlas, which is a search engine that researchers have developed to see how Google offers different responses to the same query in different parts of the world. So it goes shows you side by side search results of different countries or parts of the world that you choose, and shows you what Google is showing in those different countries. It reveals how Google's service can reflect or amplify cultural differences or government preferences. So one example is Beijing's Tiananmen Square. So searching for Tiananmen Square, you get the result of the US and Taiwan and China. In the US and Taiwan, you'll see the iconic images that we all remember from Tiananmen Square massacre, with the tanks and the student in front of the tanks and the soldiers. China's results is just a open, beautiful Tiananmen Square. No people there. It's just it's a tourist location. So it's fascinating, a fascinating glimpse at how search results differ based on a country of origin. It is in private beta right now, so I wasn't able to. We'll put videos to show how it works in the show notes. I wasn't able to try it yet, but you can sign up to try it, and I have, so I will report back later when I actually get my hands on it.
That's so interesting.
Absolutely.
So I don't have another one, so go ahead.
All right, well, I got a project.
I have a project too, but don't you have another shiny thing?
No, I'll save that till next week, I decided.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. What's your project?
So yeah, my project is I have started doing LinkedIn live streaming every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time. And I am discussing what I call the reputation algorithm. And so it is a shorthand for a notion I've had and been thinking about for years about how the signals that are generated online are discovered and interpreted and used by algorithms to affect our reputations. Online reviews are an obvious way that algorithms will present information to people and present the reputation to people. Search results are another. So I'm talking about the various aspects of digital activity that generate signals that can affect your reputation.
Very interesting stuff to be talking about, Dave. So I have a project too. I've started working for a new online publication, which is called Love, Dog. It's a new magazine, and I'll be curating content. And the publication comes from the dog's point of view, and it's launching September 1st. And it's got some of the most gorgeous photography you'll ever see. And it's also got really long form writing that some of which is quite extraordinary. And yeah, so it's at lovedog.com. Take a look and see what's up there now. And we're coming up soon.
That's very cool. That's very cool. That's perfect for you.
Totally perfect. My friend sent me the guy who was looking for help, and she said, "This is so you." And sure enough, it was.
Are you in the minority, or like most of the writers' dogs? You know,
No, but we all have dogs, and our dogs all talk to us.
You know, the old New Yorker cartoon on the internet, no one knows your dog.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. That was one of the greatest cartoons of all time,
Yeah.
really. So fortunately, we have no politics this week on the eve of the Third World War. But we're not going there. So does that bring us to pro tips?
It does. I've got one quickly. Barry Schwartz of Search Engine Land writes about this. We'll put a link into the show notes. But the Google Search Console has added some new reports that you will be able to determine how well your pages are. Basically, one's called the Page Experience Report. And it gives you indications of how you're succeeding or failing to provide a good experience for users, which also has an effect on your search visibility as well. So look for those in your Google Console accounts, and we'll put a link to this article in the show notes for more in-depth information. But
so this week, YouTube rolled out automatic video chapters for your video, for new videos. Chapters are enabled by default for all new uploads. And if you can still add manual chapters, and they'll replace any automatic chapters. But when we do the show notes this week, I think that when we do the video rather, I think I may try the automatic ones so that we have a basis for comparison. So for those who don't know, video chapters break a video up into sections, and each has an individual preview. So the video chapters add information to each portion of the video, and you can jump directly to that segment by clicking on the timestamp, and you can easily watch or rewatch different parts of the video. So we've been doing this for a long time, and it's a very time-consuming thing to do. So you can see examples of how this works on our YouTube channel. And essentially what has changed about YouTube is that Google now shows the key moments from videos in search results. And since Google favors video, this is a really good way to get your videos seen by more people. And so if you want to use the automatic video chapters, you just sign into your YouTube studio on your computer, and you go to the video you want to edit, you select edit the video. Under the video, you click on show more, which is below it, and then there's a checkbox, allow automatic chapters when they're available and if your channel is eligible, and make sure that's checked. And by default, it's checked for new uploads. So you would have to uncheck it if you want to do your own. And if you do your own chapter headings, then they will override the automatic ones. And of course, you want to do short headings for each timestamp. So if you want to opt out, you have to make sure that that checkbox is not checked for that video. Or in the description box of the video details, there's You can add a list of timestamps and titles, and that will override the automatic ones. Not all videos are eligible for auto-generated video chapters, and not all eligible videos will have automated video chapters, is what YouTube confusingly said in their video. But if the channel has any active strikes, or if the content may be inappropriate to some viewers, then you won't have that feature available. So I'll try it on today's video and see what the difference may be.
Yeah, it sounds like something that would be reserved for longer videos. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense to cut up add chapter headings to a 1-minute video, right?
Certainly not.
But
No.
also it could be a way, it could be a quicker way of identifying this. I mean, if it's accurate enough, the sections of the video where the timestamp should occur, let Google do that for you, and then you can go back and edit and add your own chapter headings once you know that, so you don't have to watch the
Yeah,
video.
I'm going to try it and see what happens. But
Yeah.
what I don't know is whether that precludes the need to upload a .srt file, or whether that's part of this upgrade.
I don't think I would imagine you wouldn't need to, because Google already does the closed captioning automatically. It's just not as accurate as your own SRT file. So I think that, no.
What I did try last week to demonstrate it to a client is adding a translation. In this case, I did it into French on one of our videos to see how accurate the translations are, because I have a client who needs to translate into several languages, and obviously it would be helpful if that could be automatic, but you still need a clean SRT file to make that happen.
Do you speak French?
A little bit.
All right, so you'll be able to tell us whether it's accurate. All right.
Yeah.
I got another pro tip. This is from TechCrunch's Stuart Hillhouse, who has an article on tested tactics for growing newsletters. And among those tactics are, he advises that people reflexively ignore welcome emails. When you sign up for a newsletter, you get the welcome email, and it usually arrives immediately after you sign up, and people just don't open those. They don't pay attention to those because they've grown accustomed to not paying attention to them. So he recommends, and he notes that those who do open up your welcome email are more likely to consistently open up your newsletters. So he recommends try to break up the welcome email pattern using delayed gratification and a recognizable sender. So delay your welcome message by 45 minutes, and that bypasses the reflex of new subscribers to ignore it, yet it doesn't, it's not so long as to get buried in other emails as they're
they forget about you.
that they forget about you. Yeah. But then the other thing is send the welcome from a person, not a business account. So make it, a recognizable individual, and include a photo to personalize it. So good advice, I think.
Definitely.
All right, should we wrap this up?
Yep.
Our weekly numbers. This is a content entrepreneurs survey by The Tilt, which is Joe Polizzi's new thing. Joe Polizzi of Content Marketing Institute, and he defines content entrepreneurs as not influencers, you might think, but people who are building a business out of content. So they're monetizing content and not just selling their lifestyle kind of for advertising the way influencers do. Anyway, 1,400 content entrepreneurs, and part of this report is how do content entrepreneurs grow their audience. 56% cited search engine optimization, 48% cited hashtags, 44% partnering with creators or entrepreneurs, 43% social media advertising, 40% speaking events, let's see, 28% creating content for third-party sites, 19% working with influencers, 22% gated premium content, tiny little 2% traditional advertising. So
wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's definitely interesting. So that brings us to the end of episode 359 of the Beyond Social Media Show. And I'm here with David Erickson, who I've never met in real life. And David is on Twitter as D Erickson. He's on Instagram as DE Erickson. He's on YouTube as eStrategy, and he blogs at the wonderful e-strategyblog.com. I'm BL Achman. I'm on Twitter as What's Next. I blog at What's Next Blog. My YouTube channel is What's Next Blog. I have a website at blachman.com, and you'll find the show at beyondsocialmediashow.com. And on that blog, we have all of the show notes in which we feature the videos and the links to the articles that we discussed. And we hope that you'll listen and subscribe to the show. We're everywhere you get your podcasts, and you can also tell your smart speaker to play the Beyond Social Media Show. And we will be back next week, same time, same bat channel.
Thanks for watching.